Hi, today's daily insight is about nutrition. Now, you don't have to eat a certain way to become a PE. The reason I'm making this video, in fact, this whole segment of videos on life cycle factors, is because the changes that I've made in the past couple years to things like sleep, recovery, exercise, and nutrition have been incredibly useful and would have been incredibly useful back in 2014 when I was cramming for the PE and training for an Ironman triathlon and working a full schedule. So I've come to learn that our diets affect us more than we may realize. And I always thought I was a decent eater. I think sometimes it's easy to convince ourselves that we deserve a reward for a strong workout or a challenging day. But what we really deserve is to fuel our bodies and brains in a way that makes us function optimally. Everything is connected, right? How you do anything is how you do everything. So if you can take a holistic approach, then some things that previously seemed hard suddenly become easier. And that brings me to the quote from Mark Sisson. Once you're sensitized to the negative effects of unhealthy choices, it gets easier to turn down what used to seem impossible to resist. So keep an open mind. If this is something that what I'm suggesting seems extreme, then remember you can go part way. You can take some of the things I'm suggesting and try them on, and the rest you can either ignore or maybe you come back to them later on when you see what the results are of kind of taking the initial steps. No matter what level you're at with this, I think diet is an area where there's always an opportunity to improve. So if you're clueless about how to eat, which I doubt because most of my followers are pretty savvy. You guys are a really impressive bunch. But if that's you, then I think the first step is awareness. And even if you have some awareness already, but you want to deepen that, you can try logging your food for a week in an app like MyFitnessPal. It's free. And or you can just write it on paper if that's easier for you. And notice how you feel after you eat, the days that you eat junk, the days that you overeat. And then the first step after that is to start reducing or eliminating certain, bad foods that you shouldn't eat, that maybe you just have a habit or you do it when you're stressed or you use it as a reward. It's challenging, and there's a lot of psychological challenges and there's a lot of addictive qualities to food. So there's so much that goes into that. But if you can start by eliminating, look at liquid calories first. Do you drink soda? If you go exercise, do you drink Gatorade after, right? These things are full of sugar. Even juice, if you're drinking like orange juice in the morning as opposed to just having water, there's a lot of sugar. And so many things, salad dressings, everything has added sugar in it. So now, you have to constantly look at labels. And basically, I would rather see you add sugar to something because you want it to be sweet than to just accept the fact that all of these products that we're buying have added sugar already in them. We're not even in control. We're just eating what's put in front of us, and we're getting all this extra sugar. So that's the first thing to go after. The next thing is the empty carbs. So any kind of, anything that's not at the perimeter of the grocery store is probably not good. All the bread and bagels and refined carbohydrates, crackers, cookies, all these things that are kind of, basically manufactured and engineered. These are not foods that are found in nature. And if those make up a significant part of our diet, it's not going to have a good long-term effect on our bodies. And the next one, I'm sure you're not surprised, is sweets, candy, desserts. So if you go after these three, if you reduce or better eliminate these three areas and stop, then you'll already do something that's life-altering for yourself if you're consuming these foods. Now, some of you might be listening to this and saying, "Hey, I already eat pretty well. I don't drink soda and I don't go crazy with the carbs and sweets, maybe here and there, but they're not a significant part of my diet." Okay, that's kind of where I was a few years ago before I made a number of changes, and I thought I was doing pretty good, but then I kind of learned a little more about this stuff and discovered you can go deeper. So maybe we're not eating the refined carbs as much, but there's still, pasta, potatoes, and a lot of carb-heavy meals. I was training a lot, so always eating lots of those things. And then you get this hunger about, 2.5 hours after you eat a really carb-heavy meal like that. It's not actually hunger. It's physical withdrawal from carbohydrates. And if you eat when you have that feeling, then it makes you feel better. So it makes you think, it kind of reinforces this idea that feeling is hunger. But it's not. It's not normal. It's not natural. It's just a habit pattern that we're in, that these foods create. And if we eat less of them and we can just hang in there for a few days, it takes 4 or 5 days to kind of get past that initial shock, then you feel so much better. And your energy is so much more level. You don't get that, spike and then crash where you basically need a nap. And now you can go further still. These are things that I think you don't necessarily want to avoid. Like quinoa is pretty good for you. And I would put beans in this category as well. You may just want to use them sparingly. So that might mean, in my case, going up to the lunch buffet, am I going to have a scoop of quinoa? Yeah, that's fine. But I'm not going to have 3 or 4. It's just too much. And, the net effect of that over the course of many days is just not going to affect my energy in a positive way. So if all these foods are being reduced or potentially eliminated in many cases, then what's left? What are we actually eating? Well, vegetables, for one, healthy protein, nuts, seeds, fruit in moderation, mostly fruits that have that are low on the GI scale, and maybe occasionally you go for something like a sweet potato, but again, even that you can avoid that and mostly stick to vegetables and protein. So if you were to do this, or even if you were to do part of this, there's a fair chance you're eating better than 90% of all Americans. Our standard diet is pretty upside down. In my experience, I eliminated the sweets and the liquid calories and the refined carbs, but I was still eating grains like potatoes, oatmeal. I was having oatmeal for breakfast pretty routinely, rice, or sometimes bread. So I was having one of those with every meal, and doing some other things that are on this lifestyle category, maybe not quite perfectly, maybe not getting quite enough sleep, training a bit too much. And these slight imperfections, while they seem minor, taken collectively can really have an impact on your metabolism. And that affects your mood, your energy, your ability to concentrate, your performance, and your enjoyment of things. So I really would encourage folks to take a look at this. The standard American diet, and I'll end on this, calls for 50% of your daily calories to come from carbohydrate. And I've come to believe that that's at least double, maybe triple what we really need. We need protein and we need fat. The amount of carbohydrate that we need is arguably can be gotten by eating vegetables and maybe a bit of fruit. So we really don't need all the sugar and the bread and the pasta. So, I love those foods. I enjoy them. I think maybe they have a place, as a rare treat, but I don't think they should be part of a regular diet for most people if you're interested in optimal health and performance. So, like I said at the beginning, you don't have to eat a certain way to get your PE, but I offer this to you as someone who's in the process of improving your career and your life. I think you owe it to yourself to consider making some gradual improvements in a number of areas that will help you over the long term. And that's today's daily insight on nutrition.